Dwemer Lore, Part 2. Ancient Scrolls of the Dwemer 3. The Importance of Where, by Marobar Sul. The chieftain of Orothbar gathered his wise men together and said, "Every morning a tenfold of my flock are found butchered. What is the cause?" Bangbith, the war leader, said, "A monster may be coming down from the mountain and devouring your flock." Gorik, the healer, said, "A strange new disease perhaps is to blame." Baron, the priest, said, "We must sacrifice to the goddess for her to save us." The wise men made sacrifices, and while they waited for the answers from the goddess, Bangbith went to mentor Joltreg and said, "You taught me well how to forge the cudgel of Zolia and how to wield it in combat, but I must know now when it is wise to use my skill. Do I wait for the goddess to reply, or the medicine to work, or do I hunt the monster that I know is in the mountain?" "When is not important," said Joltreg. "Where is all that is important." So Bangbith took Zoltic cudgel in hand and walked far through the dark forest until he came to the base of the great mountain. There he met two monsters. One, bloodied with the flesh of the chieftain of Orthak's flock, fought him while its mate fled. Bangbith remembered what his master had taught him, that where was all that was important. He struck the monster on each of its 5 vital points: head, groin, throat, back, and chest. With 5 blows to the 5 points, the monster was slain. It was too heavy for him to carry, but he still triumphant, Bangbith returned to Othrabar. "I say I have slain the monster that ate your flock," he cried. "What proof have you that you have slain a monster?" asked the chieftain. "I say I have saved the flock with my medicine," said Gorik the healer. "I say the goddess has saved the flock by my sacrifices," said Baron the priest. 2 mornings went by and the flocks were safe, but on the morning of the 3rd day, another tenfold of the chieftain's flock was found butchered. Gorik the healer went to his study to find a new medicine, Baron the priest to prepare more sacrifices. Bangbith took his Zolic cudgel in hand, and he walked far through the dark forest until he came to the base of the great mountain. There he met the other monster, bloodied with the flesh of the chieftain of Othrabar's flock. They did battle, and again Bangbith remembered what his master had taught him, that where was all that was important. He struck the monster 5 times on the head, and it fled. Chasing it along the mountain, he struck it 5 times in the groin, and it fled. Running through the forest, Bangbith overtook the monster and struck it 5 times in the throat, and it fled. Entering into the fields of Othrabar, Bangbith overtook the monster and struck it 5 times in the back, and it fled. At the foot of the stronghold, the chieftain and his wise men emerged to the sound of the monster wailing. There they beheld the monster that had slain the chieftain's flock. Bangbith struck the monster 5 times in the chest, and it was slain. A great feast was held in Bangbith's honor, and the flock of Othrabar was never again slain. Joltreg embraced his student and said, "You have at last learned the importance of where you strike your blows." Ancient Scrolls of the Dwemer 4. On the Utility of Marbles and Needles, by Marobar Sul. A Nord, a Keimer, and a Dwemer walked into a corner club. "What'll it be, Matheras?" said the barkeep. "Give me a mug of mead," said the Nord. "I'll have a snifter of Chien, the good stuff, mind," said the Keimer. "Kindly serve me an infusion of chai, a marble, and a leather sewing needle," said the Dwemer. "Ha!" guffawed the Nord. "Sure's bones, the little milk drinker's going to play pick-up sticks, but he can handle only 1 stick. At least I don't swear by a god who's not only imaginary, but dead," said the Dwemer as the barkeep placed his items on the counter. Hey, what now? The Nord blustered. Why, I ought to. He's got you there by a 0 star, said the Keimer, slipping at his Shien. A point for you, dwarf. On the other hand, at least the Nord doesn't think it's clever to worship demons from other planes, said the Dwemer, swirling his chai. But with Yaren Mafala, you go too far, cried the Keimer, drawing a triangular dagger. Yeah, let's gut the runt, growled the Nord, pulling a hand axe. The Dwemer knocked the marble off the counter. It landed on the floor just where the Keimer was putting down his foot for the thrust. He slipped, lurched left, and buried his dagger in the hilt in the surprised Nord's chest. Meanwhile, the Dwemer gave a big needle a precise flick of the finger. It spun down and lodged in a crack between the floor planks, point up. As the Keimer backpedaled from the dying Nord, he lost his balance and fell headfirst to the floor, where the needle pierced one of his golden eyes all the way into the brain. It took several minutes of flailing, but eventually the Keimer was as dead as the Nord. The Dwemer pulled a coin purse from the Keimer's belt and gave it to the barkeep, swallowed the Nord's mead in one prolonged chug, picked up the snifter of Shien and took a sip, then nodded to the barkeep and left the corner club, snifter in hand. Off to the market, they heard him say. I must get a bone tweezer, a guar egg, and a bootjack. Ancient Scrolls of the Dwemer 5. The Song of the Alchemists by Marabasul. When King Marionon's alchemist had to leave his station after a laboratory experiment that yielded detonation, the word went out that the king did want a new savant to mix his potions and brews, but he declared he would only choose a fellow who knew the tricks and the tools. The king refused to hire on more fools. After much deliberation, discussions, and debates, the king picked 2 well-learned candidates, Eantheopus, Minthurk, and Emphatic Phaer, an ambitious pair. Vied to prove which one was the best. Said the king, there will be a test. They went to a large chamber with herbs, gems, tunes, pots, measuring cups, all under high crystalline domes. Make me a tonic that will make me invisible, laughed the king in a tone that some would call risible. So Emphatic Phaer and Thampius Minthurk began to work, mincing herbs, mashing metal, refining strange oils, cautiously setting up their cauldrons to burbling boils, each on his own, sending mixing bowls mixing, sometimes peeking to see what the other was fixing. After they had worked for nearly 3/4 an hour, both Thampius Minthurk and Emphatic Phaer winked at the other, certain he'd won. Said King Mayanon, now you must taste the potions you've wrought. Take a spoon and sample it right from your pot. Minthurk vanished as his lips touched his brew, but Phaer tasted his and remained apparent in view. You think you mix silver, blue diamonds, and yellow grass? The king laughed. Look up, Phaer, to the ceiling glass. The light falling makes the ingredients you chose quite different hues. What do you get? Asked the floating voice bold. Of a potion of red diamonds, blue grass, and gold. By Dwemer gold, said Phaer, his face in a wink. I've made a potion to fortify my own intelligence. Ancient Scrolls of the Dwemer 6. Timar Van Diem by Malabarsul. After many battles, it was clear who would win the war. The Keimer had great skills in magic and swordplay, but against the armored battalions of the Dwemer, clad in the finest shielding wrought by Gyago, there was little hope of them ever winning. In the interests of keeping some measure of peace in the land, Slothan the warlord agreed to a truce with Carenthal Barif the Beast. In exchange for the disputed lands, Sothin gave Baraf a mighty golem that would protect the Chima's territory from the excursions of the northern barbarians. Baraf was delighted with his gift and brought it back to his camp, where all his warriors gaped in awe at it. Sparkling golden hue, it resembled a Dwemer cavalier with a proud aspect. To test its strength, they placed a golem in the center of the arena and flung magical bolts of lightning at it. Its agility was such that few of the bolts struck it. It had the wherewithal to pivot on its hips to avoid the brunt of the attacks without losing its balance, feet firmly planted on the ground. A volley of fireballs followed, which the golden ably dodged, bending its knees and its legs to spin around the blasts. The few times it was struck, it made certain to be hit in the chest and waist, the strongest parts of its body. The troop cheered at the sight of such an agile and powerful creation. With it leading the defense, the barbarians of Skyrim would never again successfully raid their villages. They named it Chima Var Imdian, the hope of the Chima. Baraf had the golem brought to his chambers with all of his house thanes. There they tested the Chima Varium further, its strength, its speed, its resiliency. They could find no flaw with it in its design. Imagine when the naked barbarians first meet this one on one of their raids, laughed one of the house thanes. It is only unfortunate that it resembles a Dwemer instead of one of our own, mused Caranthal Baraf. It is revolting to think that they will have a greater respect for our enemies than us. I think we should never have accepted the peace terms that we did, said another, one of the most aggressive of the house thanes. Is it too late to surprise the warlord Svolthen with an attack? It is never too late to attack, said the Baraf. But what of his great armored warriors? I understand, said Baraf's spymaster, that his soldiers always wake at dawn. If we strike an hour before, we can catch them defenseless before they have had a chance to bathe, let alone don their armor. If we capture their armor on Yanago, then we too would know the secrets of blacksmithing, said Baraf. Let it be done. We will attack tomorrow, an hour before dawn. So it was settled. The Chima army marched at night and swarmed into the Dwemer camp. They were relying on the Chima Varium to lead the first wave, but it malfunctioned and began attacking the Chima's own troops. Added to that, the Dwemer were fully armored, well rested, and eager for battle. The surprise was turned, and most of the high-ranking Chima, including Caranthal the Baraf the Beast, were captured. Though they were too proud to ask, Svolthen explained to them that he had been warned of the attack by a calling from one of his men. What man of yours is in our camp, sneered Baraf. The Chima Varium, standing erect by the side of the captured, removed its head. Within its metal body was Yunago the armorer. A Dwemer child of 8 can create a golem, he explained, but only the truly greatest warrior and armorer can pretend to be one. I hope you've been enjoying these lore readings, and if you have, please do consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching.